Hey everybody, today is July 30th, 2021. I'm Gene.
And I'm Zane.
And you're hanging with Uncle.
How's it going, man?
Good, man. It's been a very, very interesting week.
Yeah, it's been honestly a really long week.
It really has.
Today even dragged on forever.
So
it really did.
We have, again, this week we have a lot to talk about, so
Yes.
let's do first things first. We are doing blueberry cookies this week.
Hey, it's a really good one too, actually. It tastes really good. I like it.
And this one crosses the finish line at 20% on the THC level, so...
Not too bad. Honestly, it holds pretty good.
Nice.
It has a good taste to it. Very earthy. We also have a guest today.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, if you want to introduce him for us.
Today we have my good friend Hayden Samples, who we worked together on a congressional campaign last cycle where Hayden was the campaign manager.
Awesome.
And it's good to have my friend here on the show. Welcome, Hayden.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, welcome along, man. I'm glad you're here. Like, it's cool to hear other people getting to, like, be a part of the show outside of our inner circles.
Yeah. And always to get another perspective, because today's going to be kind of a serious show. We have a lot to talk about because there's a division going on, the truth versus non-truth, to put it bluntly, I guess.
Fiction versus non-fiction.
It's crazy what's going on. So we're going to dissect facts and events as we've seen them that have been proven, and just kind of see where history is going with this on some of these things.
Okay, this sounds like a really cool deep dive. So
yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be the dummy in this topic because this is something I don't know much about. You guys know a little bit more about it, so I feel like I'll bounce the questions here.
Okay, that's fine, man. That's fine. Let's start with January 6th.
Yes, the insurrection.
Yeah. So I mean, we all saw it on national TV. What happened? There was an insurrection. A bunch of terrorists stormed the Capitol to stop a congressional hearing or proceeding during its function.
Mm-hmm. To stop a process.
To stop a governmental process.
Yeah.
And that's insurrection. And I'm sorry, Hayden, was it a walk in the park or did you watch something else?
No, it was nothing like that at all. And Gene, I want to bring up the point that you used the word terrorist, and I thank you for using that word because this is the same type of selective outrage that people have over who's allowed to be pissed off and do something against the law and who isn't. These were not lone wolves. These were not angry people. These were actual terrorists. What they did is definition of terrorism. I mean, Christ, the last time someone stormed the Capitol was 1812, and those were the British.
Yeah, and they burned the Capitol down. Even during the Civil War, the Confederates never got to the Capitol.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't understand just the whole concept, just how it happened, to be honest. Like, anybody who'd be sitting on their foot on the grass of that building alone should have a weapon pointed at them immediately, especially if they're going beyond, police lines, especially during a process like that, too. Like, we talked about how the police weren't, like, sufficiently, manned. They were outnumbered, basically, 10 to 1 in any ratio, maybe even more than that.
According to the testimony on the Hill that we saw, was it Tuesday?
Yes.
They estimated about 50 to 1.
50?
50 to 1. So here's another. I'm glad you brought that up. Here's a good way to jump right into this truth versus fiction shit, okay? Because on the right, I'm hearing, Nancy Pelosi is to blame for this because the Capitol Police fall under her jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Time the fuck out. Nancy Pelosi was asking for the National Guard to come and help the Capitol Police.
Right.
The National Guard don't fall under the jurisdiction of the Speaker of the House,
Correct.
So she's not responsible for shit. That's one big lie Republicans are trying to lay on her, not knowing what the facts are. Know what the fuck you're talking about. Nancy Pelosi doesn't run the National Guard, you ignorant cocksucker.
Right, well, I mean, she has to report to somebody also, correct? So, I mean, like, it can't just be pinpointed onto one person anyways, like you say. But it's, I don't know, the whole thing can't be downplayed.
Right.
That's the whole idea of it. There's nothing to downplay about it. You can see raw footage of it. I don't see disguises that Matt Gaetz is talking about.
Right.
I don't know. The downplay is crazy to me.
Right, and it's just literally it was something that I have to imagine. I don't think a lot of Republicans, even members of Congress that still push the narrative, thought it would ever get this big. They thought it was, oh, let's all stand outside and be angry and then upset. And next thing you know, it was like, oh shit, here we go. Someone's already crossed the line. Well, we're in for a penny and for a pound. We just got to go with it.
Well, yeah.
And I look at Representative Clyde, and he's the biggest son of a bitch that pisses me off, because on January 6th, you watch him with the Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police putting furniture up against the door to barricade to keep from the mob from coming out. And that's the same ignorant motherfucker talking about if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would think it was a regular day of tourism.
Let's say, that's not how you're tourist.
That is the
like
same
sessions go.
I've seen the pictures. I watched the whole thing. You're a fucking hypocrite, dude.
He was literally there, and he's still not downplaying, pretending it didn't even exist, pretending it wasn't even a thing. It was a normal day, like you say. Yeah, that thing that just blows my mind. Like, it really is just something that it needs to be corrected. And I'm glad that they have these guys, this group of people, bringing these hearings forward and bringing out the facts of those people, from the people that are actually there on the ground. Those police officers are very brave for bringing out their statements.
Yeah, and you bring it back to it also, like when you looked at the articles of impeachment that were brought for the second impeachment against Trump because of the Capitol riots, like you had members on the Republican side, it was literally the same narrative, like, no, these were just people that were pissed off. Let's go back to the fact that this is literally, oh, you Democrats are doing this because you don't like Trump. There were literally 2 members of Congress, specifically Doug LaMalfa of California, who said, you're doing this because you hate Trump because he's pro-life, he's been a pro-America president. And then you had Lee Zeldin try to turn around from New York, who said, oh, look at what Trump did for MS-13, how he was fighting MS-13. Just literally taking everything that had nothing to do with why they're impeaching him and say, you're doing this because you hate what he's done for America. Not the fact that, well, he might or may not have incited insurrection on the United States Capitol.
I mean, we're doing it because of what he has done to America, period. I mean, that's mainly it. Like, they were impeaching him because of what he was doing to America. Yeah, that's a bold statement. That's the reason why. Well, he wasn't a good president.
So,
he wasn't.
Real talk. The first time he was impeached, it was over the Ukraine.
Right. It was something really minor. It was really something minor compared to all the other things that he'd done.
Not the second time. No. He was impeached for January 6th because he's the one who incited it. He's the one who sent him down there.
Even announced saying, we're going to march to the Capitol. They can hear it, I can hear him saying it. Even just watching that 40-minute video I sent you. Remember watching that raw footage video? There's a 40-minute video.
I think it was either the second or third presidential debate. He said, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
And guess who was there?
In force. With microphones in their earphones in their ears, communicating, coordinating the attack.
And then they're downplaying not only what's happening, but what they had. There were no weapons. Yeah, no weapons as in guns that they could point out. But a lot of the cops said they saw prints where were actually like the outlining of a gun, correct? But other items that were used can be considered as weapons in multiple scenarios. The pepper spray that they use bug spray to spray in people's eyes. Then they had cattle prods, tasers. They were taking other officers' weapons. They were using them against them by force. Like, that's a weapon. You pick up a rock and use it and hit somebody, you use it as a weapon. Period.
But let's also address the major elephant in the room about how the Capitol Police handled this while doing the best that they can.
Yes.
Let's not bullshit ourselves in the fact that the majority of the perpetrators were white. And how many people got shot? 1, maybe 2 people did. And only 1 person was killed. I promise you, if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, there would have been a hell of a lot more. In Maricopa County, there was more violence by the police against peaceful protesters. In fact, our county attorney is still bringing charges against individuals who participated in the Phoenix area Black Lives Matter protest.
Wow.
So don't tell me this has anything to do with, oh, well, we were outnumbered too. This is partly, there is a fundamental difference with how white perpetrators are dealt with versus how black perpetrators are dealt with.
True.
And real talk, let's just get right down to this right now. To say that they were unarmed is, number one, a lie. Like Zane just said, with the different instruments of destruction that they used against law enforcement, there were several arrests with people of firearms, handguns.
Correct.
On January the 6th and days leading up to it. So you're full of shit. You're lying to everybody. There were guns out there and people were arrested. The crowd was totally fucking armed.
Yeah, bear spray. Like, they used bear spray on people. I can't even imagine. I can't. Like, there's nothing to downplay about it. They tried to attack our government, our due process, how we do things. They tried to, corrupt it.
Well, here's point number 2 I want to make out of, again, how Republicans are trying to spin this to, again, I'm not stupid, don't insult my intelligence, It was not Antifa.
No.
They were all Trump people. They were all carrying Trump flags. There's no such thing as Antifa. Antifa just stands for anti-fascist, which means we don't want to live under like a Hitler regime, which is what Trump was trying to do to us.
Which sounds fine to me. I don't want to live under that.
So Antifa's not even like a designated organization with chapters and things like that.
No.
It's just like a hodgepodge of like basically less than organized Minutemen, if you will, who aren't trying to fight the southern borders. They're trying to fight fascism.
Right. We fought fascism in World War II. I don't want to fight it now. I'm anti-fascist. Wow.
Then you have groups like the Proud Boys and all that.
So that's a conspiracy. Those people were there,
which is a real deal.
Organized, planned assault on our capital during the process of a constitutional function.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. But talking about the hearing, the police officers and all their individual statements and all the things that they went through, I liked the fact that they brought the cop that dealt with the bomb incident. Yeah. The premature bomb incident. Thank God that was founded before everything happened, because guess what would happen? Man, who would have knows what would happen if that bomb wasn't found?
Cops are point number 3. Okay? Again, I'm listening to Fox and on the right and these conservative people, and they're trying to say these were paid actors up there testifying that they weren't real police officers. This was all theatrics. When, again, all you have to do is look at body cam footage and you can see them there in their uniform. They're trying to lie to the American people. And just in the hearing, that's 3 different instances where Republicans are trying to say something totally different than what's actually true.
Right. But it's just something that can't be downplayed anymore. And I'm glad that they're actually taking charge and doing something about it, Well, I mean, we can go on to our next thing, our next major topic that you love, Gene, so much, COVID.
Oh boy, here
COVID-19.
Will
we have our new
get done with this topic?
Right, we have our new variants going on, the Delta and the Lambda
variant.
Lambda variant.
Yeah.
Man, hyper infectious, it says, right?
They say it's
hyper contagious.
As contagious as chickenpox, and we've all had the chickenpox, and we know how contagious they are. And that is what COVID has turned into, because of these ignorant people who refuse to get vaccinated when there's no reason for them to not get vaccinated.
Right.
That is the only reason we are in this spot, is because of unvaccinated people. You selfish motherfuckers.
And now it even says that even the vaccinated can pass it just as well as the unvaccinated.
That's because this virus has
mutated
to the point where it's allowed to do that. But because had you been vaccinated, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Gene, I'm not a big "I told you so" person, but
how long have we been talking about this?
I talked about this a long time ago.
But what I find probably the most, not just upsetting, disgusting at this point is when you actually look at the number of people who are vaccinated, and you think, because you hear like people at least people I know, I would like to argue are sensible individuals who have been vaccinated. But when you find out that not even 30% of this country's population has been vaccinated, you got to think, what in the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's not cool at all. Like,
and now, I was talking with people about it. A global pandemic will really tell you everything you need to know about a society and a person and how they act individually. The fact that someone can be so selfish to say, well, I'm not going to wear the mask because it inconveniences me, or I don't want to get vaccinated because I don't like vaccines, I don't believe in them, rather than other countries, because I guarantee you, in developing nations, they don't give a shit about Jenny McCarthy and her pseudoscience bullshit. They're going to say, vaccine, I'm glad I can have one. Thank you very much. They're not going to try to find a computer and look, oh, it's got this, and that in it. It has aborted embryos in there, which has been a huge argument of individuals who have been opposed to things like vaccinations for just the general flu.
I have a friend in New Zealand who's laughing at the world right now. I promise you. I've talked with him about it, and he's told me that if the world was a lot like where he is now, it wouldn't be an issue right now. It wouldn't be a
New
thing.
Zealand was the first nation on the planet to successfully make sure that it was completely eradicated from the country. And I mean, for Christ's sake, they opened up venues. They were able to go back to life as normal.
Yep.
But now with the Delta variant, it's having to go back the way it is again. The problem is, you look at the people in this country and the fact that it's these individuals who are like, it's a violation of my civil liberties. First off, bitch, there is nothing in the Constitution that says, like, the 11th Amendment to the Constitution is not, thou art free to not be vaccinated or be choice of vaccinated. This was never brought up. This was never thought about. I mean, Christ, the average life expectancy in 1776 was about 50.
Damn.
And people were dying from things like cholera and syphilis.
Right.
Tuberculosis.
Exactly. Like, things that we laugh at nowadays. It's like, oh, I got tuberculosis. All right, gotta go. And the doctors nowadays, it was like,
pop a pill.
Well, I've got it. Sorry, family. It's been a great 14 years of life.
Gonna burn
Love
your
my
house.
wife and my 7 children. Yeah.
Which brings me to another point.
Yeah.
You know, we've all been vaccinated.
Yes.
Correct.
We believe in science.
Yes.
Who's not getting vaccinated, and where are they getting their information?
Right.
Conservative media and elected officials telling people that you don't have to do that. I'm sorry, but you know what? We've had this conversation before, Zane, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to give the analogy anyway. You know, if it's your right, you don't feel like you have to wear a mask and you don't have to get the vaccine, well, guess what? I'm going to come out of retirement and I'm going to go to work at a restaurant and I'm going to go take a shit and wipe my ass and not wash my hands because washing my hands violates my civil liberties. And then I'm going to go fix your fucking food.
Nasty.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and that's the reality, but I think a lot of it has to go back to, like, look at the way that our culture was brought up. Like, you know, we were brought up to... It's one thing to question authority, especially when you see an unarmed black person being pulled out of a car by not one, not three, but 12 cops in a situation. It's another thing to say, well, you know what, you should be vaccinated. Well, I don't want to be because I'm an American. I love the fact that there are so many people in this country who don't understand the basics of certain civil liberties.
Yep.
And the idea that, well, if it goes against what I have to do and makes me uncomfortable, I don't have to do it. Bullshit. You fucking pay taxes. That is federally mandated. And guess what happens if you don't? IRS comes and knocks at your door, and you're facing 3 to 5 years in prison for tax evasion.
Yep.
So people are always, and then this is what you have to look at with the Biden administration and how they have handled it, quite frankly, poorly, because Democrats have not been rough enough about it. Because the problem is they don't want to come off as dictatorial. They don't want to come off as authoritarian. But the point where you will say, if you don't fucking get this done, you're not allowed to leave your house. Your children are not allowed to go to school. You will be arrested if you try to go out in public. But then the conservative media will turn that around and say, guess what? That's them being authoritarian. That's them being a dictator.
Yeah. You thought you had this, but this is what they're doing. Literally, I already see the headlines.
That's, again, another point where Republicans, you know, do say one thing and do another, because When they had the majority, what did they do? Whatever the fuck they wanted. They didn't give a shit what Democrats thought.
No.
Now Democrats are in power, and what do we hear? Oh my God, Democrats are just trying to ram their agenda down our throat. Fuck you.
Yeah, the Texas is a prime example of that. They whined when the Democrats were doing their own form of their filibuster. They didn't want to be there and show up, so we're going to go somewhere else. But then they whined and bitched because they didn't show up. Well, guess what?
I mean, that happened in Oregon. That happened in Oregon, and like that is a prime example of walking out. But it's also a prime example of the certain messaging that we'll get to in a little bit, and I'll bring it up later when we get into our messaging segment. But when you looked at what Democrats did with that bill, they said, all right, fine, we're going to compromise with Republicans. Republicans would have never done that if they had the majority. They'd be like, you get the fuck back here, or I will send Capitol Police to arrest you, detain you, and forcefully bring you back here.
Yeah.
Which the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate actually has legal authority to do.
Yep. That's crazy.
Yeah, not the governor.
Correct.
Yeah, so now it's more just like with this new variant. I don't know, guys. Like, what do you think about this? How do you guys feel about this? Like me right now, I'm an asthmatic. I have asthma.
Right.
I did delay on my choice of going and getting the vaccine just because of my mental being of this. There are mutated variants. I feel like the vaccine came out too early, or it wasn't adjusted to take care of all the variants. It wasn't obsolete. But then I went and got it because I had one to travel into. I felt comfortable enough at the moment to go and get it.
Right.
I gave myself my own personal time to go and get the vaccine. But now, with this variant, and with the understanding that the vaccinated and the unvaccinated can pass this, how do you guys feel? What are your strategies now? Because I am now masking again.
I am too. I'm vaccinated and I mask when I go to the grocery store, anywhere indoors.
I just did that today. I ran to the grocery store and I had my mask back on. And I think this is going to only get things worse because even the sensible people that were on the fence still wore masks. But the problem with Americans is that we are so turned off by anything that even remotely inconveniences us. Even if we think, yeah, there is science behind it, okay, it's for the greater good. Our selfishness comes out there.
Right.
Our selfishness will come out and they'll be like, I'm vaccinated. I don't need to wear a mask again. And the next thing you know, this is what ends up happening.
Yeah. I mean, me being vaccinated, like I said, I still had to wear a mask. I still wanted to wear a mask going somewhere. You know, just because I knew that there were people who would lie, honestly, one, about being vaccinated, and two, there were those who weren't. And I knew that I could still get sick from it at some point. But we're going to go to our message. Yeah,
let's
move on to that.
Yeah, messaging, you know. So I totally agree with you, Hayden, and I'm tired of Democrats always trying to play nice. Oh, Republicans, they're the mean guys. We're going to play nice. We're always going to be up and above board. I'm tired of that shit. Have a fucking backbone. Do what I voted for you, to go do.
Yep.
Come on, Christian Sinema. You're my senator. Vote to protect my damn voting rights, or I'll vote for somebody else.
Right.
Exactly. So I think this goes back, and a lot of the messaging had to shape during the 2016 Democratic Convention. Michelle Obama came out and spoke. And she said something that has always reigned, that a lot of Democrats have used, and that's when they go low, we go high. But my question is, how do you go high when the people that go low are cannot be reasoned with?
Right.
When you cannot try to win over people that are so far gone because they have been convinced that your party is the new coming of Adolf Hitler, you are Soviet Russia all over again, you are socialist in your own right, you want to destroy my way of life, you want to take away everything that I've known and held dear, and how could I ever try to go high with you and talk to you about the real issues?
They're like Borg.
Yeah, I've always said, like, they never sit there and talk about the issues. Either, oh no, next, pass, whatever, and they never talk about us like they say they represent. So it's all about them.
The reality is, when they go low, beat them at their own fucking game.
Absolutely.
That's what I say going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what's the worst that you're going to do? Oh, she was nasty to me on the floor. Guess what progressive media is going to say about the conservative? Oh, he was nasty to her on the floor. When you match that level of negativity, but you can do it in a way where you are still able to beat your opponent.
Yeah.
Because we always were taught as kids growing up, you stand up to bullies, do you not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because, trying to be diplomatic and saying, hey, John, I didn't like that you did BAM right in the face is only going to get you another smack.
Absolutely.
So it's not like go and clobber them until they're an inch away from death. It's show them that they cannot fuck with you.
Right, just show some backbone. Like you said, they just walk over him, and then it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna move on to the next thing. Well, no, come on,
one thing with that is, my father used to be a Republican, and he left the party, especially after the insurrection, and is now an independent. One thing he mentioned to me is, he said, Hayden, if I was Biden right now, I would have Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin in my office and say, listen, motherfuckers, you're going to get this filibuster done with. You're going to help me with this infrastructure bill, because if you don't, I swear to God, I will use whatever resources I can to make sure you lose in your primary or you lose in your general, and we'll get somebody else who will work with us.
Yeah, there we go.
And that's what Biden hasn't done, because he's trying to bring this back from the total calamity that was the Trump administration. But again, this is the issue of what is he getting done? Because right now, a lot of people are looking at Biden and they're saying, I'm happy to have an adult in office, but what the fuck has he done? He's been there 6 months now, and we haven't really pushed through anything.
I mean, my personal complaint is marijuana still being where it is.
Right, Joe, come on, Joe.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the federal re-legalization of that. Like, we need to move forward from this.
And this is where Democrats, at the old adage, have to shit or get off the pot and start working, because you also have to look at, like, gearing up for 2024, because the sad reality is, and I've taught, and Gene and I both know this, whenever you work an election, no matter if you win or lose, you always start to think literally the next day.
Yep.
All right, what's going to happen in the next 2 years?
Yeah.
How do we plan for the next 2 years?
Exactly.
So, because the reality is, Biden's going to be 82. It is very unlikely he's going to run again. So then people would think by definition, well, Kamala's going to run. But what the fuck has she done?
Right.
But then you're saying, well, if Kamala's not going to be the choice, we got to pick another Democrat. Look at the governors. Who stood out? No one. What about anyone in the U.S. Senate? No one.
Nobody.
Anyone in Congress? No one. Anyone in any of the cabinet? No one. Liz Cheney is the only one who stood out, and she's a fucking Republican. See, this is what, and like, this is why I could never be a politician, because I would have no problem saying on the floor of the House of the Senate, you're a fucking liar, and getting censored for it. I have no problem doing it.
Right.
But that is what I believe truly the American people want. They don't want someone who's going to pussyfoot around the issues anymore.
Not.
They want someone to say, you lied on camera, you lied on this, you're a fucking liar.
Yeah.
They want someone who's going to stand out.
We want some Judge Judy type shit. We want some order going on in our government. You know what I mean?
Like Fauci did to Rand Paul.
Exactly.
Right.
Our leaders need to lead, and they need to tell people, hey, that's not how you do it, and that's not policy. Period. Like, and we talked about how it takes multiple people to run a ship, right? It doesn't take a lot of people just to point. When you start pointing fingers, that's when it stops running. You know, like, nut up, do your job, get it done, represent us the way you need to. Period. End of story.
Well,
do your job.
I think right now, number one, if I'm a Democrat, I'm looking to 2022. I'm looking to the midterms. And the message is going to be voting rights and protection of voting rights in especially those states where, like Ohio and Pennsylvania, where Democrats have a very good chance of flipping those seats and getting more than just a 50-50 majority.
Because right now there are 5 Republican incumbents that are not running for re-election. Gene, like you said, Pennsylvania and Ohio are
Wisconsin.
2 states. Wisconsin, Ron Johnson's probably not going to run again. He may challenge Tony Evers for the governorship. But if that's the case, all of those states already have 1 Democratic senator. It's not impossible to get a second one.
No.
Is it going to be an uphill challenge? Oh, you better fucking believe it. But it's not impossible. People did not believe Arizona in 2 fucking years would have 2 Democratic senators.
Right.
Because if you look at Arizona on paper, Democrats have 5 out of 9 congressional House seats and 2 of the Senate out of 0. So we're light blue on paper. But look at us at the state level. 3 of 5 of the executive level offices are Republican. The Senate and the House are 1 seat majority for the Republicans. The Corporation Commission is 3-5 for the Republican. We are still light red. So the reality is, it always has to do with, at the national level, you could have 1 message you're sending, but at the state level, that's how you got to focus.
Right.
Because if you've ever wondered why some Democratic senators do so well in, like, the Rust Belt states, but the Democratic presidential candidate gets the shit smacked out of them, it's because the messaging there is different. The Democrat in Ohio has to worry about the steel mills, some of the mines, the working class individuals. The Democrat running for president has to say, I got to worry about your jobs, but I also have to worry about the people of California, of New York, of Florida.
Right.
And that's where the message always gets lost too. And one thing that Republicans, and I've got to be honest, Republicans have been great with their messaging because their messaging is very simple. X, Y, and Z. Attack this, support this, denounce that. Whereas the Democrats are in a hodgepodge of everything, and I think it has to do with the fact that the base is so diverse.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that feel that think differently. Like we talk about moderate Democrats, and we talk about Democrats, and there's so many different descriptions for a Democrat, or anybody who's a Democrat. Liberals and blah blah blah. There really is just we have a whole different spectrum of people on one side, where Republicans are just so cookie cutter. They're they're literally the empire. in Star Wars.
There's a special election going on in the state of Ohio right now in that Democratic primary. But anyway, today's Friday. Don't forget to pay yourself.
Oh yes, absolutely. Don't forget to pay yourself. I did, absolutely. First day of the month.
Hayden, thank you for joining with us. Thank you for hanging with Uncle. We hope you'll be back.
Absolutely. I definitely enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Well, I'm Gene.
And I'm Zane.
And thank you for hanging with Uncle.
Take care.
We'll see you next week.